we're going to get into the meat of the show. I know that, I've had a lot of people ask me about live streaming, and there aren't a lot of kind of live stream talk show type things. And there actually aren't a lot of live stream coders. There are more of those, certainly, the talk shows, but live streaming is not something that's, I guess, very prevalent in the coding community.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to become more, and a lot of people want to find out, well, what is that like? What do I have to do? And I know that it's really kind of intimidating to get into it because it seems like a lot of technology you have to learn, as well as you have to put your face on camera and you have to talk to people, and which is not usually a great thing for programmers because we're usually a bunch of introverts, and talking to people just, makes us cringy. But so, I wanted to start by kind of finding out what what got you interested in live streaming, and what kind of track did you kind of follow to get yourself, to get yourself here, because there you are.
Yeah, there it is. um, yeah, it is intimidating. I mean, just right off the top, it's extremely intimidating. I think my path kind of started with I wanted to do more video content. I feel like I'm I feel like I'm able to do video content pretty well and I enjoy it a lot. In a previous life, I was a tax accountant and I recorded like a whole course on um, introduction to financial accounting, and it's still, live out there. And I just really enjoyed like making video content. Um, and so I wanted to like get into doing live streaming. And part of it, honestly, was what you said, that there aren't that many people doing it. And so I kind of looked at the landscape of what developers are doing, and maybe like most of them are doing like their job, and that's kind of no public presence at all. And then it goes like Twitter, blog post, newsletters, and then at the very top of like the content is live streaming, because there's nobody up there doing it. And so I thought, okay, well, I can give it a shot. It's not a very crowded space, so I may as well give it a try. Um, but I think the hardest part was just doing the first live stream, because it's terrifying. And I think I'm good on my feet and I'm able to, think on the spot. And I was still like terrified to go live for the first time. I did the thing where I go live in secret and don't tell anyone. And like I go live and then I go check it and make sure it's working. And then I'm like, oh man, that made me nervous. Now I would have to do that and like tell people, they would come and watch me.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that was like actually quite scary. And then I had a couple of people reach out to me, just a couple of like Twitter friends. They're like super encouraging and telling me, it's going to be so fun, you can do it. And I kind of just DM'd some of them, and sorry, still have COVID. I DM'd some of them and was like, hey, can you walk me through like this Twitch thing? And can you walk me through OBS? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I just found that everyone was so supportive, and I had a couple people walk me through their settings and their setup, and there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about there. But just getting started was the hardest part for me. And then once I did, it was a blast. Like, it's a whole different kind of skill set besides and on top of just programming, but it's a lot of fun. Like, if you find you enjoy it, I think you'll get hooked.
Yeah. So Marco says one of the biggest problem with live streaming coding stuff is that you as a viewer are lacking most of the context of the project. That is absolutely true. How have you found that to be in your streams so far?
Yeah, that is a weird thing, because people pop in and pop out, of course, and people will, I think people will background you because they're like kind of co-working. And so
Yeah.
you're working on your thing and they're actually like listening to you, but working on their thing. And then when they hear something interesting, they'll pop back over and they're like, wait, what's going on? Who's doing what here? Um, and so I kind of view it as like it's not quite as efficient as doing it on your own because you
Right.
are having to backtrack a little bit and say like, and I try to backtrack and say, okay, so here's what I'm trying to figure out, this thing, this thing, and this thing. And so I can't every couple of minutes, I can't give full project context because we'd never get anywhere. But every couple of minutes, I'm always trying to reiterate out loud what it is I'm trying to figure out or what it is like the local problem, if not the global problem, but the local problem that I'm trying to figure out. I try to reiterate that every couple minutes. And that helps me stay on track. And I feel like that also helps people who pop in or pop out or background me to like understand the specific problem I'm working on at the moment. And that is one of the things, like it's a different skill on top of programming. You have to be able to like kind of do the narrative at the same time
Yep.
as programming. And that like that takes a little bit of maybe it takes skill, but it definitely takes practice. And I'm having to practice that a lot to be like, oh, yeah, there are people watching me and I need to tell them what I'm thinking. I can't just think it and type it. Like I have to say it out loud.
Well, that was the biggest thing that when I started streaming, I started streaming games. But when I started streaming, the weirdest thing for me is even if there's nobody in the chat or nobody watching, I have to be verbalizing what I'm doing.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And so I ended up talking to myself a lot, and I was like, am I the biggest idiot on the face of the planet? You know, I felt like such a fool for such a long time. And then you just start to realize that there's people lurking in the background watching you, and they want to hear what you have to say. They just don't want to talk, you know?
Yep.
But it just feels weird.
But also, I mean, you know, I remember you used to do videos when you were doing terrain stuff, and those were prepared videos. So it's not like you had an audience when you were doing it, but you knew once you produced the video, other people would be listening to it. So even if you don't have an audience at this moment, they may be watching a playback. So that's another reason to know, you know, you need to keep talking as if someone's there.
Right. But then you've got that trick of you're sitting there and you finally get used to talking to yourself and a chat pops up and you're like, oh crap, what do I do now?
Yeah, and it's like that's another thing on top of it is I feel like there's this culture of, especially on Twitch, and we need to talk about Twitch versus YouTube, but especially on Twitch, there's this culture of you know, interacting with the chat and like developing these kind of like inside jokes, these long running bits and that kind of stuff with your chat and with like the people that hang out with you. And to be able to, you know, I've got it, the stuff I'm working on one monitor and like the chat on another with OBS and everything on the other monitor, and being able to work on something and also kind of be entertaining, but also kind of talk to and acknowledge people in the chat. It is not easy. It's like there's, you know, it's like there's 4 or 5 different things vying for your attention all at the same time. And for me, like I want to acknowledge the chat and say like, hey, thank you for being here. This is terrifying. Thanks for coming and like helping me out, basically.
Right.
But to do that over and over and over while still moving the content forward, that is, I don't think I've found the total balance of that yet. And I think there's some aspect to which the chat kind of hangs out and like they talk to each other a little bit, and I don't have to acknowledge every comment, but acknowledging like when new people show up. And then there are all these weird milestones on Twitch of like, you know, somebody will do something, they'll spend points on something, and it's like, oh, it's good to acknowledge that. And so finding where I slot into the overall like Twitch ecosystem and subculture has been kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here, or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.